Is the Culling Day 1 worth a try? Stick around to find out. Hey guys, this is Rushy. As someone that played this game quite a while when it first came out, I feel like I should give you guys my opinion about it before you try it out yourself. And yes, I've played the recent re-release of the game as well. Now, I don't know if you guys have been following the recent story of Xavian games, especially this last couple of weeks, but let me put you up to date because this is interesting. So long story short, in 2016, Xavian Games released a game in early access called The Culling. It was one of the first Battle Royale games to be released on Steam. I played the hell out of it with my best friend, and despite the big amount of bugs and poor optimization, the game was still fun. This was way before PUBG and Fortnite became so popular. The game was doing well, but due to some bad development decisions, it ended up losing almost more than half its player base. This was around the same time that the PUBG fever started, so I'm sure this also affected the player base to some extent. Anyways, The Culling came out of early access on October 5th, 2017, and surprise surprise, no one was playing the game at that point. The game was simply dead. Fast forward a few months in time, and Xavian decided to completely abandon the project to focus on a new title. Great decision on their part, except for all the people that bought the game for $20 when it first came out in early access. Anyways, the new project Xavian was working on was what we know now as The Culling 2. I mean, the first game just failed. What's the next best rational decision to make right now? Create a sequel, of course, what can go wrong? And against all odds, The Culling 2 managed to be one of the best rated games on Steam up to date, hitting a top of 249 players on the release day. In fact, it was so good that 2 weeks after releasing the game, it was completely dead, and Xavian decided to apologize and take it out of the market for good. But that's not all. With the first game dead and the second one removed from the store, there was only one logic decision to make. Re-release the day one build for the original The Culling. The only build for many that actually had some potential in it, and the reason why I'm making this video. I'm not gonna lie, once I heard the news I started feeling really nostalgic, and this was definitely something that I really wanted to try out, and so I did. But was the game fun? Was it worth it? Well, the short answer is no. But I don't want you guys to think that I hate the developers of the game or the game itself, because that's not the case at all. I simply think that even as a future free-to-play, this game has almost no chances of succeeding, and by succeeding, I mean this game is not going to be the next big Battle Royale game. They did manage to create a loyal fanbase with the first title. I'm just not sure if those same people are invested in the game now as they once were, and you will understand why in a bit. But first, let me give you some reasons on why the game is not worth it, at least yet. First reason is, like I said before, because the game is not free to play yet. When they released the day one build, they said eventually the game will become free, but they didn't give us any dates yet, so don't throw your money out of the window by buying it, cause trust me, even for $5 the game is not worth it in the state it is right now. Second is the fact that this is literally the day one build. I know it sounds stupid for me to expect something else, but all the things that they got right over countless updates to the game over the years, like better optimization and better textures for example, were completely thrown out of the window, meaning that once again this game is back to an early access state. Back in 2016, this was acceptable because you didn't have a huge amount of Battle Royale games in the market, and the genre was just starting to bloom. But nowadays, you have a much wider amount of options, all the way from indie to AAA titles. The competition is just insane right now. So for a Battle Royale to be successful in this day and age, I'm afraid a good idea is not enough. Sure, the game has some cool unique mechanics, like the fact that it's based on a melee combat system, but is that really enough to make the game worth a while? There are already new games coming out based on a melee combat system as well, that look much better than this, as you can see from my last video. Another thing that I noticed this past few days while I was doing the research for this video was how drastically the player base dropped already in a matter of a week. This shows how having to compete with other Battle Royale games right now is such a huge problem. Even the people that loved this game when it first came out don't seem to be playing it as much. How do I know this? Well, there's a couple of red flags out there, and the first one was how far the game dropped on streaming websites. It went from one of the most viewed games on Twitch to this in a matter of days. Now I know a platform like Twitch can fully represent the player count of the game, and to be fair, once they released the day one version you had people like Grim streaming it along with some other big Twitch names, but out of nowhere they all stopped. This is just speculation, but it's possible that Xavian paid them to stream it, on the hopes of getting the word out there. Keep in mind that Twitch played a big role on the success of this game when it first came out. Most of the big streamers were playing it back then for a good amount of time. But anyways, I decided to check it for myself after I see this, so I launched the game, and what was a 1-minute queue the day before was now a 5-minute plus waiting time, meaning that there's not as much people playing it right now as in the first days. I was not the only one to notice this. There's also an article talking about it in Twinfinite. I'll leave a link in the description in case you guys want to check that out. And I hope they don't dump the project yet again. I know that this is business for them, but if they mess this one up, I don't think people will trust them ever again. But for what is worth it, it seems that they are really committed in making it work this time. They already released the first update for the Day 1 build, fixing some issues and exploits just a few days after the release, and in the patch notes they manifested how hard they are working to release the game as a free-to-play as soon as possible. And hey, maybe this will revitalize the player base once it goes free, at least I hope so. But there's one more reason why I cannot recommend the game to you guys right now. It's because first impressions mean a lot. I'm talking from personal experience, but I'm sure some of you guys feel the same way. Once I try a game that it's poorly optimized and full of bugs and exploits that can actually ruin my gameplay experience, I tend not to pick it up for a very long amount of time. And when I do come back to check it out, to see what improvements have been made, the servers are already dead, because a lot of people felt the same way and end up leaving for good, leaving the developers of the game empty-handed in terms of a player base, and thus losing the motivation they had, dating the game less and less until his eventual death. But I'm sure once they release the free version of the Culling, it will be much more stable. It's probably not going to be perfect, but the experience will be much better than the one you will have if you play the game right now, for sure. And by then you will be able to try it out with some friends, and it will make the experience even better. But that's it guys, I just wanted to give you my opinion on the recent re-release of the Culling. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, a like will be much appreciated. Also, let me know down in the comments below what do you think the future of the game will be. I'm always down to talk. This is Rushy, and I'll see you next time.